Tonight on The Breakdown, 3 into 2, who will make the Super Rugby Trans-Tasman final. Our panel debates the All Blacks midfield options, and we catch up with the Force's Island international Rob Kearney.
Kia ora koutou, ka tō talofa bula. Hello and welcome to The Breakdown. And yes, and then there were 3. Now, we're not saying mathematically that the Hurricanes and Chiefs can't make the final of Super Rugby Trans-Tasman, but form tells us that it's in the hands of the other New Zealand teams as we head into the last round of the competition. So John Kerwin is adamant that the Blues are well and truly the favourites going into the final weekend, but challenges in front of everybody.
They've been top of the table, mate, the whole time.
Mills, OK, all of our teams, well, we know for certain our teams are in. Mills, where are you now? Now the Chiefs are out.
Man.
Hey,
he's...
you know, mate, you know.
Yeah, he's been Blues all along, mate.
Blues.
So are you pledging your allegiance to the Blues right now?
Well, I have to now, mate.
Right now, of course you have to right now. Hannah, let's start with this conversation. It's now 18 and 2. Australian teams have won a couple of games. The Brumbies got over the Hurricanes in Canberra. Jason Holland talked about the fact he doesn't believe the gap between the Trans-Tasman teams is as wide as everyone is talking about, particularly us in the media. What do you think about that statement?
Yeah, I think it's probably a fair statement. If you look at the games, they're all pretty close till half-time. And then at half-time, the Kiwis just have got another gear to go to. Bench is good. They've shown over this competition that there's a lot of people that can play a lot of good football.
So if they're getting better, JK, if they are getting closer to us, does it give you hope as we start preparing for another competition next year, the fact that they'll have time to adjust and get even better?
Yeah, I do. I think they'll be... I agree with Hannah. I think they don't have the depth of squad, and I don't think they're used to the intensity that we've come off with Rugby Aotearoa. So I thought the teams have got better week in, week out. I mean, besides the Waratahs, who are absolutely terrible, but the rest of them have actually got better.
So they're averaging, conceding over 50-odd points a game, the Waratahs. We've always talked about, Mills, the fact that maybe they've just got one too many teams. They've brought the Force back into the competition, who themselves, though, have recruited pretty well and brought players into their environment to bolster their stocks. Can they get past that going forward? Can they build enough depth to stay competitive for longer, which Hannah's talking about?
Well, I mean, judging by where the Waratahs are at, you know, they've got a long way to go. But if you look at sort of where the Force have gone and sort of branched out to internationals to bring them back in to bolster up their squad, and they've actually done, you know, pretty well. But the Waratahs, they're rebuilding. They've talked about a lot of young players in their squad. They're losing by a lot, so haven't really got, you know, they've lost a coach during the season as well. So there's a lot there. I still think they're one team too many. I think if they can, you know, bring it right down and possibly bring some of those young guys over to the Force or, you know, intermingle them, then I think they'll be a lot better. But they'll still have a good Aussie Wallabies side, I believe, JK.
Yeah, I listened to Dave Rennie and he was smiling a bit, Hannah, on the weekend. I reckon if you have a look right across the weekend, I actually think they've got a scattering of really, really good players. I think they'll put on a very good test side. And
he's got another squad he's putting together. You look at the talent across the board, some guys putting up their hand that weren't in his initial squad, and you get the sense Renz is the type of coach, Hannah, that he likes competition and he's not going to play too many cards too early. No, that's right. And I think in some really key positions too, some really good loosies, some good midfield backs, scoring a lot of tries on the wing. So I think he's got a lot to choose from. Yeah, I think he's got plenty of players. What I don't like about this competition, and I've seen it, we're getting all of these high scores. Some of the defence has been lacking, JK, but for me...
How good?
It's been great, but by the same token...
How good?
How long should advantage go for? Because I get frustrated on the weekend.
Do not start me. I was just having a nice...
That's why I asked you first. That's why I asked you first, because we know how frustrated you get. Look, we both worked our way through the game yesterday, the Chiefs and the Rebels. 29 penalties... Not one yellow card. No repercussions for both teams over the course of that game, continuing to infringe.
To answer your first question, the unwritten law when I was coaching was sort of 3 rucks. 3 rucks, you've had your chance, it's over and you don't go back. What annoyed me the other day in the game yesterday, 40 yards, ran up, then dropped it, and they went all the way back.
For a knock-on?
Yeah, for a knock-on. You're just going, nah, that's not our game. Just keep playing. You got the advantage, a couple of passes. What's 7's, a couple of passes?
Yep. And that's the way you'd like to... I mean, Hannah...
Well, no, I'd like to have 15 less penalties per game.
Yeah, and we'd all like that. There's a lot of things we would like, but I get the sense... Is it something to do with the fact that, yes, we've all of a sudden got different styles? Hannah, would that be contributing? Referees having to adjust as well?
Yeah, I think so, and particularly in the contact areas where people are getting a little bit mixed up, and the referees just aren't policing it, and it's getting away on them.
Hard Mills, the fact we've talked about it constantly, is the fact we know so many aspects of the game, but the scrum has certainly been once again been a challenging situation. It's gone back and forward, and I'm not sure what to see every week, but this idea of the fact that dead time to me is so critical. An advantage that goes on and on, whether it be penalty, which you give them a little bit more leeway, but a knock on, it should be just a couple of passes and away you go and play. You've had the ability to take advantage of a mistake.
I think a little bit different when you're talking about a penalty. When you've gone on that long and had a really real crack at that advantage of a knock on, 40-odd metres, whatever it was, surely that's play on. And I guess the dead time is what we're talking about. To come all the way back then, to then make another decision, to kill another 2 or 3 or even 5 minutes, it's just slowing the game right down. And when there's no consequences as well and admittedly yesterday there was just so many penalties for so many different things. Have we got too many rules? Possibly.
Yes. Yes, we've got too many rules. But also, you're right, Mills, what annoyed me was also the players obviously don't know them because there's too many. So there's all these different penalties, like coming in from the side, which we've known for 4 or 5 years. But my biggest issue and my biggest gripe, and it's not the ref's fault, it's not the players' fault, I don't know whose fault it is, but it's not changing. We have these discussions every year. And I'm swapping channels and I'm watching the league and watching the rugby, and I come back and they're still having a scrum. Right? I watch 2 minutes and then come back. We've got to start getting rules where the players actually, I don't know, or they sort themselves out.
I think they need to feel responsible. I think they feel responsible, the nature of the way the game is being played and the nature of the contest. And we might be seeing some scores, but I think a lot of that might be of the fact that actually they're giving away territory through penalties, the fact that they're giving away scrum penalties, scrum tries, line-out drives. I think some of those scores have been inflated. What have the scores meant over the last 4 weeks? That this is what we are looking at, and it's the Blues who are in control of their own destiny. They have the 19 points. They are at home this week to the Forced, and 5 points would guarantee them a home final. And will it be against the Highlanders or the Crusaders? JK doesn't care as long as it's at home. The Highlanders, however, go and play the Brumbies. Now, what's important here is look at the points differential. They have an 11 points starts pretty much on the Crusaders. So
does that matter?
It does matter, because the Crusaders, they're playing the Rebels now over in Sydney. Comes down to if they come out of the game with the same number of points, it'll come down, they would have had to have won by a greater points differential of 12. So it's in your hands, JK. Confident against a Force team that has been niggly, has shown that they can be difficult to play against. It won't be a given.
No, it's scary, actually.
Why are you so
if you're
scared?
a Blues supporter, because we've got to earn the right. We've got to get out there and they've got to work incredibly hard, which they've been doing, but you can't go out there and I don't think you can go out there and chase the 5 points. You've got to go out there and really earn the right. You've got to break them down, have good discipline. The Blues still haven't put an 80-minute performance together. They're still a little bit up and down, so that's what they should be aiming for this week. Forget about the result, just put an 80-minute performance together. They do that, and it'll be a final against who cares.
Hannah, do you see them as favourites, though? Sitting right now, the advantage of being at home, and how much will we look forward to maybe a final other than somewhere than Christchurch?
Yeah, it'd be different, wouldn't it? You'd think that they were favourites going into it. It'd be great to see the Blues in the final. Obviously, the Highlanders alongside them. Tough old match up in Canberra for them, though.
A difficult task. I mean, you're smiling away here, Mills. Look, we saw how difficult it was for the Hurricanes. I suspected maybe the Brumbies were one of the best teams out of Australia, but at home at Canberra, I mean, this is going to be incredibly difficult, particularly if you're thinking you have to chase 5 points. And, if you win by 4, is that what you're needing? Given the Rebels have been pretty much thumped a lot of their games, Crusaders, how do you see it playing out? And are the Blues still favourites, even though we know the quality of the Crusaders?
I think the Blues are. When you're looking at it now, then they've got everything to play for. When you look at where the Force are coming from the opposition, this is their 3rd away game in a row. So they've been in New Zealand for a very long time. You look at the Highlanders. That's not the same Brumbies team that we've seen over the years. You go to their fortress. They've been beaten there, even by the Reds this year. They've been beaten there a couple of times as well. So, everything's for them, so that if the Highlanders can go over there, and we know, how much they thrive on that sort of the underdog status. If they go over there and come away with 5 points, there's no doubt in my mind they could still possibly. A pretty tough ask, but doable.
They'll welcome Aaron Smith back into the fold as well, Hannah. How much of a difference could he make? And the fact that the way that they play, and they seem as though they've got the ability to create, do they have the game, do you believe, to go into Canberra and win?
Yeah, I think they do, and they've got some confidence. They've come off the back of a season of winning in this competition, and I think having their key playmaker and Aaron Smith come back after a rest is going to be really beneficial for them. It's
been an interesting week because, JK, a number of players through obligations have had to rest. Aaron Smith was one of those, Sam Whitelock, Richie Mo'unga, meaning that the Crusaders...
Obligations? What are you talking about?
Those are obligations, the fact that...
So the All Blacks stood them down?
They took a week off.
Because I was listening to Razor and I thought, wow, that's a big call. Big call, resting everyone. And then he sort of dropped that little sweet one in there. Oh, so it was an All Black rest?
Enforced. Yeah,
okay.
And a lot of them had played a lot of minutes. And
they still won, right?
They still won, but they missed out on a bonus point, which would be significantly different. They were in control. They probably had the opportunity, you know, but I still look at the quality of their side.
They deserve to make it. It'd be pretty sad.
Let's just quickly, how mouth-watering is this, though? The fact that we thought we were going to maybe get a final last year.
Yeah, but they pulled out because of COVID, remember?
No, they didn't pull out because of COVID. There was, unfortunately, safety first applied, but we saw they've had a contest this year and the Crusaders stepped it up again in Super Rugby Aotearoa at Eden Park. But to get this final, it would be pretty significant and I'd say almost a sellout, right?
I don't think they've stepped it up since then. They deserve to be in the final, but they haven't been at their best for this tournament.
The Crusaders you're talking about?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. I think this is massive. It's mouth-watering, but of course I want to see the Highlanders get there because of who I played for. But the fact that if it became the Blues and Crusaders, it would be really something special at Eden Park. They would be ready. We've got plenty more to talk about, but we've got to go around the world. Come on, Ricky. You took a Monday night off last night. You were working at the netball. I didn't say off the show.
Okay.
Easy. I'm not like
I
welcome you back. Not at all. Not at all.
It was a ripper netball game too that I missed the show for, so it was worth it. But
we
nice
were
to be back with you guys. So let's go swanning around the globe, and we will start in the north, where Kyle Sinckler has been called into the Lions for their tour to South Africa. Now, you may remember Sinckler was pretty close to tears as he discussed his initial omission from the squad. He replaces the injured Andrew Porter. Now, Lions coach Warren Gatland, who brought Sinckler to New Zealand in 2017, says Sinckler has played well for Bristol since his initial omission, and he hopes the England prop continues to stick two fingers up to me about leaving him out in the first place.
Great call.
In South Africa, 5 years after his last test, Morné Steyn has been included in the box squad for the series. This is the wider squad, alongside fellow First Fives Handré Pollard and Elton Jantjes. The 36-year-old joins a 46-man initial squad 12 years after his late penalty won the series for South Africa in 2009. And speaking of dramatic wins, check this out from Marlborough boys against the highly favoured Nelson College in First 15 Rugby. This is Cooper Roberts for the win. Hooter's gone, and this is for Marlborough to win it 20-17. He's got plenty of gas too. They should all be exhausted by then, you would have thought. But look at the chase coming in. Good finish for Marlborough to win that, and more on First 15 revision at 8 o'clock on Wednesday. And lastly, but certainly not least, undefeated former All Blacks captain Wayne Shelford is now Sir Buck, one of 8 new knights and dames recognised in today's Queen's Birthday Honours list.
It is a surprise, but you know, the thing is, my wife and I talked about it, and we thought, yes, we will take it. She said to me, "You should take it, because it's not just for you; it's for all the people that you work with and that support you and what you guys do. You know, like especially for the RSA and the rugby teams I follow and coach, and being president of the rugby club and all those. It brings them a lot of, they can pump their chests out and say that we've got a sir in the club."
And thanks to our mates at News Hub for that clip. So from Sir Buck to Sir JK, a man you know very well, obviously.
Yeah, toughest guy I ever played with. I remember, I'm not going to talk about his down there story, which is pretty famous, and I was there and nearly vomited when that happened. But another time in Australia, I was on the wing and there was a ruck really close, like right there, and I was obviously watching the ruck, not going anywhere near it. And Buck got rucked in the scalp, so right here. And for a split second, all I could see was his brain. And then all this blood came gushing out, and I'm going, ooh, I hope I don't get my boots dirty and stuff. But anyway, the doctor ran out and they looked at him, and Doc said, "Oh, you're going to have to come off, Buck, you should come off." And Buck said, "Nah, Vaseline." And the doc said, no, Buck, you've got to come off. You know, it's really, really bad. And Buck said, no, Vaseline, Doc. And Doc went, no, you've got to come off. It's really serious. And Buck said, Doc, if you don't give me the Vaseline, they're going to take you off on a stretcher. So Doc brought the Vaseline out. Buck goes like this, grabs the Vaseline, wipes it on the side of his head and played on. And then I went into the change room afterwards and he's under the shower with a flannel, cleaning it out. Oh. You know? And I think he got like 30-odd stitches or something. Just like, ugh. And then the next scrum, the game was in the balance, 1-1 in 88. He picked up from the base of the scrum, ran 15 yards, carried about 6 players with him. Michael Jones came on a short ball, great angle, and then he gave it to me. I had no one in front of me, and we scored, and that sort of changed the whole game. It was amazing. But he was incredibly tough.
That is a hard... I feel a bit spewy, actually, hearing that.
So many things about that. It was uncomfortable. So many.
The weird thing is, you hear the story about this great man and how hard he was. And I had him for the Blues under-19s or 18s back then as a coach, and you think, here's this genuine man who's going to come out and sort of just yell at you and be this tough bugger. But he wasn't. He never actually thought. He was so humble, he's so genuine and really quietly spoken, but he's really likeable. And then you hear all these stories about how we lost all these bits and pieces and, you know, cuts to the head, and he was just a hard bugger.
What's remarkable, Han, too, is that you still see the odd bring back Buck sign.
You do.
You know, it's around, right? I mean, you have to have a massive influence, I think, for a generation of people around that initial World Cup. He was a significant part of the All Blacks. Yeah,
and he walks around the North Shore Club, and even the little kids know who he is still, which is pretty amazing. Still coaches, still's in the club rooms every weekend. And I think the great thing for me is not only what he's done on the field, but also what he's doing now for mental health and for prostate cancer and child cancer, and being able to put his voice to that, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
Hard to think of somebody else who was dropped from the All Blacks that can still create that much stir and that emotion. Congratulations to Sir Wayne Shelford, Sir Buck. And on that, we will go to the trivia question.
Oh, yay! My favourite part.
Well, look, you might be OK in this one.
You're 0 for 9. Yeah. You're 0 for 9, JK.
Notice I said you might.
Something from the 80s?
How many All Blacks have been knighted?
Oh.
You've got to name them as well, because it's a number of names. Mills has got it.
He's got
Mills
it.
has absolutely got it.
He's not writing it down, though. Normally you're writing it down. Hey.
All right, so how many All Blacks have been knighted? Think about it at home as well. These guys will have a think about it. We've got more to come after the break. These guys are going to have a look at some of the midfield options for the All Blacks. I'm sure that will generate some robust debate. But as we do go to the break, we would too like to remember one of the great characters of All Blacks rugby. Jerry Collins passed away 6 years ago.
And an all-black jersey for the first time for Jerry Collins. Now Collins goes again. Collins bursting up the middle. Serves it up for Collins. Collins, powerful serves by Jerry Collins. Collins fires the pass to McCaw. Back to Collins. Collins for the line. And down, yes! Jerry Collins gets his first test try. Oh, Chabal, he wanted it, and the All Blacks lined him up. Oh, that's pretty solid. There's another one for the scrapbook. Jerry Collins has just ironed out Chris Jack.
We had no clue how to sail. We learn pretty fast, and it's good fun.
Welcome aboard the Wild Thing. Take you on a little tour of our little humble abode. This bad boy folds out into a nice little double bed, but knowing our luck, it just usually stays as a single. Couple of props.
Mate, that's not a bad line.
Hey, are you fishing? Are you fishing?
You had any Titanic moments up the front?
Yeah. Usually gets up there. Good sunset. We usually always naked on board too.
All Access tonight with Tom Robinson following after us. Could be PG-13 at the very least, but surely looks to be entertaining. Right, before the break, the trivia question. How many All Blacks have been knighted? I need a number and then we can look at some names. JK?
He forgot to count himself.
He didn't count himself, did you?
7.
No.
10.
No.
9.
Hold on.
You were so jammy.
Because he knew I was going to go 8. You knew I was going to go 8, and you went 9.
Okay, Mills.
Have you got 9 names?
Tell me who your 9 are, then,
I'll let the others say.
So you don't know who they are.
Sir JK, I'll go first. Sir JK.
You've got
So I have, but I don't
You've
have
got
9. I've got Buck, Wilson Wineray, Sir Brian Lahore, Sir Brian Williams, Sir Michael Jones, Sir Colin Meads. And then I don't have the other 2.
Well, Sir John Kirwan.
Sir John Kirwan will be
Probably
handy.
a
Don't forget
good
that.
start.
Don't
Good
forget
start.
that.
And there's one, and I think it's one you've all missed. No one's got any other extras on that. Where did you get 10? Who have your extras, Hannah?
Well, I just backed that he didn't have a great memory, so I just put a few on that. And that's how I came up with
So who was one of the few? Who were one of the extras? Who was
So
one of the
there is
extras?
9, which Mills has totally taken a punt on, and here they are, and you will see one right in the middle
Graham.
there.
Sir
John
John
Graham.
Graham.
Sir John
Sir
Graham.
John Graham. How did I miss that?
That is the one you've missed.
Oh, Fred Allen.
Oh, Fred Allen was the other one.
Fred Allen as well.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, right, 9. That's not, that adds up to 9, doesn't it? Well, sort of congratulations, Mills, but I'm giving the win to Hannah on that because she completely bamboozled you on the look on your face when she said 10 was worth it.
I love her, Hannah's ability admitting she was cheating. Admitting she was cheating. I saw his list and I just added a couple in. Thanks very much, Ricky. So what did we do last week? We started talking about fullbacks and first fives for the All Blacks going forward. This week we're going to talk about the all-important midfield. Now, we shouldn't forget that Jack Goodhue obviously sustained an injury earlier on in the season, so he is going to be out, we understand, for the rest of this year. He'll be back next year, hopefully fit and well and rearing to go. So, JK, the first point of call is the fact that a lot of squads are put together. You're usually talking 3 to 4 guys who can play in the midfield. We've got a lot of options.
No, we don't.
We don't have a lot of options. He doesn't think we've got a lot of options.
Not like we used to.
OK, so who are your guarantees? So give me one of your guarantees right now.
Anton Leonard-Brown.
So he's one of them for you, Hannah? Another guarantee?
Yeah, David Havili.
David Havili of the Crusaders. We're not naming the All Blacks, by the way. We're just going round for you.
I'd have to agree on those 2 there.
And those 2. And is there someone else that you think right now is a guarantee to be the 3rd, possibly?
I think if you're possibly looking at form, but he falls into the winger centre role, is probably at least Stefan Nganuku.
OK, so he's the guy that you're looking to fill that role. One of the things we've talked about... JK, I'm throwing to you for this question. Just one of the things you've always talked about is specialists. You've talked about who plays where in roles. Rieko Ioane is a guy who's been in a conversation, who's been playing at centre for the Blues. Is he a long-term proposition in the All Black jersey, and when does he get the opportunity at the next level?
Well, here are my 3 centres at the moment. Anton Leonard-Brown, Havili and Ioane. And so what I'm talking about is, if we want this guy to be a world-class centre, we actually cannot play him on the wing for the All Blacks anymore, I don't believe. He's got to either come off the bench and play centre or start at centre, because we want him to get through to the World Cup. I think he's still learning some of the subtleties, especially on defence. Sometimes he still jumps out. He's still learning some of those little parts of the game. And I think playing him out of position at the All Black level is not going to help him be a great centre. So I reckon he's at that moment in time where you go, I'm a winger or I'm a centre. Because to be centre, not that I'd never know this, but Mills, you'd know this, it takes a long time to get used to it.
So, Hannah, does Braden Ennor sit in the same spot? Is it the same conversation? Is Lester Fainga'anuku in the same conversation as that some of these guys just need to get time in the 13 jersey? And are we looking for a replacement for that great All Black centre in Conrad Smith, the guy that we probably haven't found so far?
Yeah, I've gone Braden Ennor on the bench for me. I think we need Rieko on the wing, particularly with Caleb Clark out playing with the Sevens. We need a power winger, so I've kept him on the wing. Obviously, he can come in and cover 13, and I think that's where they use him at the end of the game, keep working on his skills. As you say, we need to create some specialists in this position, but I would be having Braden as my out-and-out cover for the midfield.
Is it problematic, the fact that now Ngani Laumapi is heading offshore, the fact he was an out-and-out 12? Do we see at the international level behind David Havili, does Anton Leonard-Brown cover and play the same way? Because is that the adjustment you might have to make? And this is a big step we're talking about in David Havili, because this is not what we've had at 12. Ma Nonu, Ngani Laumapi. We've been very direct in this position, Mills.
Yeah, we certainly have. We're just looking at Anton here. I mean, why he's cemented himself there. I mean, you look at what he's done in Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. You know, he's in the top 5 for about 5 of his offensive sort of things, carries, metres gained, defenders beaten, offloads, things like that. But I sort of disagree with JK. I think we have got a lot. The problem that we've got in terms of our centres is they all play a similar game. And if you look at the skill set, you know, when you're looking at guys, you know, they offload, they run hard, we haven't got an out-and-out skillful guy like a Havili, someone to back him up as well. So when you look at the centres that we've had, traditionally we've had a robust centre that's going to get us over the game line and sort of, you know, try and knock them back as well. And then you complement that with someone that's working hard, sets everything else up. And that's where Nonu and Smith were very, very good and in the partnership about them. We spoke about that off air, JK, that the partnership is crucial. My only concern is for a lot of these guys, they're all sort of robust. And when you look at someone like Rico, you're right. Now's his chance to say, am I a winger or a centre? Am I prepared now to go, I'm going to sit on the pine and just go out there and be a centre, or, you know, have the capability to be a world-class winger like he has been in the past?
I want to ask you this, Han, about the fact that how critical is the defensive capabilities of your 13 across the board? The fact your ability to make great reads, and we see that group. Who are the guys that can play that role? Because we know that's one of the toughest places to defend. Yeah,
absolutely the toughest. And not only in defence, but also having to be eyes and ears for your first five, read the game, find the holes, look at territory, really crucial position, which has to be covered by a specialist. It's really hard to keep people out of position in that role.
Did we ever say Conrad Smith without Martin Nonu? So as a combination, this is what concerns me about the game. I'm not saying who's right or wrong, but playing people out of position and not creating combinations, I reckon, is a really interesting conversation that people need to have, because when you think of the great sides, it was combinations in the loose forwards, in the locks, and also in the midfield. So if you're thinking about the types of players, and we've traditionally had someone getting us over the advantage line at 12 rather than that silky player, but maybe you swap them around. Maybe it's Anton Lennon-Brown and someone like Ioane. I don't know, but we've...
No.
How many games
you may not know. What do you want to see? Is that what you want to see?
I'd like to see some combinations being built and some competition for positions. For example, we've got enough midfielders, let them compete. Don't put them on the wing.
So I'll throw another curveball in there. So if we're looking at guys who want to get, and this is something that the All Blacks have done in the past, and you're looking at all the talent we have in the first five position, appetite for a guy like Richie Mo'unga to cover 12? Have that ability to play 12 when you've got a Damien McKenzie and Bowden Barrett?
He's as physical as it gets. 10 at the moment.
Yeah, I know he's at form 10, but to cover it, because that's what you're talking about when you're trying to reshuffle. Any appetite for that?
No.
No.
So that'll be a no then. All right.
Yeah, because
I just threw it out there because I watch him play and I look at his physicality, and you know what? I think he's actually got exactly the same skill set as David Havili. He can run, catch and pass.
I'd play him at fullback. I'd play him at fullback.
You might play him at fullback?
Because he'd free him up. Okay. But I'd never play him at 12.
So this is where we start talking about balance,
12's got to get in there and mix it up and tackle and do all sorts of
all the other things and on the ball. And yeah, I get that. And is this why, you know, we start looking at it and there's debate about whether we do have depth? What about a guy like a Braden Ennor? You know, you talk about his skill set. What is it you like about what he does?
Yeah, look, I think he really good passing game, really strong in defence, understands the space out wide, having come from the wing, and really unlucky to miss those test matches last year.
Yeah, I just haven't seen enough of him.
Yeah. So I actually think he's more a 13 than a wing. I think he's got a natural skill set for the 13 position. He was out on the wing because there was no space as usual. That's what happens down in Christchurch, right? They introduced these guys, but then all of a sudden the impact all of these players might have. What I will say to you this is the fact that I would be surprised, particularly in these first three test matches, that they don't find room to take more people into their squad, maybe only take two halfbacks, because TJ Perenara at this stage is not available for selection, and they give guys an opportunity to get in their spot.
I mean, I think we needed a North-South or an All Black trial. My biggest concern about the Fijian test matches is, are we going to be tested to the level that we need to win against Australia or be competitive at the World Cup? That's my problem at the moment.
And it's a valid question. And we will see, particularly when they announce their first squad, about how they're going to frame that, whether they're going to bring guys into that competition or into those three test matches and give them opportunities to play. What is interesting as well, we've done some research, and there's 5 guys who are off contract at the end of 2021. And you might find some of these names very, very surprising and concerning if you're a Chiefs fan. Brad Weber, Sam Cane and Damien McKenzie. And at either end, you've got Cody Taylor and Ardie Savea. Now, Mills, there's no... I suppose we would expect these guys to be re-signed for 2021, but if you're a Super Rugby franchise, you're probably a little bit nervous, but also the fact that the impact, and I can't see any of these guys going overseas, but it'd be nice to have some of these guys locked down until the next World Cup.
Yeah, it would be nice, and considering the experience they bring, in terms of the IP and sort of what they have in terms not just of the Chiefs, but sort of New Zealand rugby in general. When they actually go into the All Blacks, the All Blacks environment, that's a lot of IP that they've got on their shoulders. So hopefully they can get that done, and you wouldn't possibly see them going overseas, but you just never know these days.
Yeah, and Hannah, you look at some of those guys. Out of those 5, who would you like to see locked down pretty quickly? Like, tomorrow, if you say, you know what, I'd like these guys to sign on the dotted line, who in particular for you? Yeah,
like 2 critical loose forwards there, and Sam Cane and Ardie Savea. I think getting those locked down, absolutely critical for the next week. Well, all of them really, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's none that aren't critical in that group.
You think about the form of Cody Taylor.
I think the biggest risk is Brad Weber. I think he's at the biggest risk because you've just re-signed TJ Perenara, so there's probably not going to be enough money in the war chest for him. You've got to sign Ardie. I love this guy. I think they should sign him straight away. If they've decided that he's our 3rd halfback for the World Cup, they'll sign him. But he rightfully should get decent money. You've got to sign Ardie Savea, especially with Sam Cane, having a few years of injuries. He's the All Black captain, you sign him. Cody Taylor, he'd be probably the first one that I'd sign, with Dane Cole sort of, still fantastic, but getting towards the end of his career and a few injuries. So you've probably got to try and sign them all, but I'd be worried about Brad Weber more than anyone. Yeah, for me, the fact that the way that the All Blacks have used Aaron Smith, and he's elevated and set the standard, Ngati, down in Dunedin, and it seems as though Brad Weber in particular, he's raised the bar for himself as well, and showing great leadership skills, Mills. But once again, I get concerned for the likes of the Chiefs, because those 3 guys there, significant in the way and setting the culture in that group.
And also, when you look at the guys around them as well, they've got a very young squad and they've done very well through Super Rugby Aotearoa. But you lose, a lot of that leadership and, in the Chiefs and the mana that they've got in them, then, that's starting all over again. And the last thing they want to be doing is getting to a stage where it's similar to the Waratahs. I don't think it will happen like that. But, there's a lot of leadership there that they would lose if those guys didn't sign up. And
another one in particular, just briefly, is the fact that I know he signed with New Zealand Rugby, but Geordie Barrett is another guy who's actually off contract, franchise contract, JK. And he's got a brother up here, and you guys are forever recruiting, but he's in a position that, would be beneficial. He's smiling away over there, working behind the scenes, but...
Well, would you want to play with your brother? But I'd want to play with my brother. If I had a brother, I'd want to play. Wouldn't you want to go, actually, let's put the 3 brothers together...
Well, you're taking one out of the Crusaders as well now.
Yeah, he'd be bored down there. He's won everything. Give yourself a challenge, son.
You mentioned Ardie Savea. Geordie Barrett as well. Think how good he's been, Hannah. How important he is to their environment.
Yeah, this year he's been awesome for the Hurricanes. Leadership role, kicking points, running the team round. Critical. Really, really, really good. So these are all things that are going to go and play out. And, of course, the future of Super Rugby continues to grow, as does our club game. Ricky, get us up to date with what's happening around the country.
I was just going to throw in, well, Geordie could go to the Crusaders, couldn't he, and still play with his brother, but it's OK. Let's get to club news. Papatoetoe's 75th Jubilee celebrations on Saturday featured a hard-fought but ultimately unsuccessful match against Ponsonby. The South Aucklanders losing 27-7. A rare win, though, for Marist, JK's side, 34-8. Against Waitemata. In Taranaki, Tukapa beat New Plymouth High School Old Boys at 29-14. And speaking of the Barrett brothers, their coastal side lost to Stratford Eltham 24-27. In Div 2 in Taranaki, Okaiawa outside back Tane Leatherby scored this absolute screamer against Kaponga. Look at him go, step, step, step.
This is JK versus Italy. This is what this is in '87 World Cup. He is gone.
Yeah, Tane's
but wait,
and hold on, did you do that? Did you do that? No, you didn't. No, actually, you slowed down. How do we look over your shoulder? That's what you did.
And then this is another one. This is down south in Kettle Park in Dunedin. Alhambra Union left winger Petheli Malanifangi showed a very clean pair of heels to score against Dunedin. Thanks to Grassroots Rugby for that footage. Check them out on Sky Sports. JK would never have had the socks around the ankles, though, right?
Love Kettle Park. Love Kettle Park.
At least look the part, my father would have said.
In Wellington, North's women won 34 34-24 against Oriental Rongotai, and the North's men's team had a win 34-12 against Hutt Old Boys Marist. In Southland, Pirates Old Boys played spoilers in Marist Centennial weekend with a 23-9 win. Mosburn also celebrated their 100 years. They had a win though, 48-18 against Waikiwi. There's been lots of centenary celebrations. The Northland Union had theirs over the weekend, and also Ngati Porou East Coast, who let our Sky crew be part of the action.
He korangi te maunga, waipu te awa, Ngati Porou Tiwi.
To be celebrating 100 years of Ngati Porou Rugby is, just such a big, exciting event for the whole iwi. Today is going to be our pinnacle event, you might say, celebrating the actual centenary. We've got a calendar of events throughout the years, celebrates every generation and both genders. So to be here today celebrating Ngati Porou Rugby is so exciting.
You guys are making history today, wahine mā. You know it. So go out and give it all you've got. Mahi atu mahi ni.
We're starting off with our wahine, we're renowned for mana wahine. Today our wahine will be selecting our Ngati Porou East Coast women's team to represent us around the country this year. And of course our legends, some of them are world famous in Ngati Porou, and it's going to be exciting to see them out on the field again. Hopefully no injuries.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I suppose, the ladies played before us and sort of set the tone, and then us old has-beens got out there. So, just really good to get the Poverty Baby Boys up here to support the occasion. 100 years is a pretty special day for us. It can be a time that brings our community together. After the game, our people leave with a happy heart and feeling inspired by the effort our boys put out there from both teams.
The things that make us unique is, first of all, it's obvious, we're the only iwi-based team, not only in the country but in the world. So this is truly an iwi-owned team. The iwi feel they've got the right to have opinions on selection, on coach selection, everything, and that is what people play for.
Some played their first day of their first game today, but just keep your head cool. There's the same fire in the belly, ice in the mind. Hey, keep your fire, let it come from here, not from up here. Don't lose your head.
A lot of talk's been around our whanaunga nehe coming back and putting on the sky blue jersey. That pull of the iwi to come back and wear that sky blue and represent your iwi is the definite magnet.
Looking forward to seeing nehe me on the scudder and the boys in blue put a good performance on the paddock.
Oh, the boys, they sort of freaked out a little bit at the beginning. Because I never told them, they were wrapped over the moon, and obviously you don't get to rub shoulders with someone like that every day or every week. So for them, it was huge.
We do for the brother beside
It's a special feeling, sort of being a proud Māori boy from the coast. Used to watch these fellas back in the late 90s.
the expense of everybody else, but it's great to see. Look, it's great to see, obviously, the Australian teams back in New Zealand rugby once again. And this Trans-Tasman competition has been fantastic, but it's also brought some internationals to the fold. And Rob Kearney's played over 300 first-class games, so many test matches for Ireland, played for the Lions. You decide you want to come and play for the Force. Oh, something's just happened. Force, he's dropped out. He's just dropped out. And we'll get him back in a moment. We'll talk about this, the fact that Rob's come over, he's playing for the Force, playing at full-back. Great to see someone of his ilk coming into this competition. That's a world-class player. When you play, how many test matches is it for the...
95.
Oh, I mean, I
watched
them, you know, when I was in Italy, following the Six Nations. Absolutely amazing. And I think we need to do a bit more of it, you know, especially some of the Australian sides, you know, when you talk about some of their depth. But for me... one of the best players they've created. I thought probably... I mean, he played that second test. Was it the second test against the Springboks where he was outstanding, and then they didn't pick him for the third? But he's one of those players, Mills, that I would call silky. Like, he'd pop up in unconventional places. That's what I loved about him.
Absolute superstar in Ireland.
Yeah.
He is an absolute superstar, almost like a, I suppose, an actor, I mean, in terms of the status that he has over there. But I used to always love the challenge in terms of his kicking game, because he had silky skills, but also his kicking game. And I know we've got him back, have we?
We've got him back. He's just about here. He's coming on in. And I want to talk to him about the fact that this is obviously a big opportunity for him. And, Hannah, you think about the like of him likes coming out. And this is an era of Irish rugby, which they took on the All Blacks for a number of years. He was a big part of that.
Yeah, he sure was. Really interested in his experience. I suppose he's here now, so I can ask him. Hey, Rob, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. I'm back. Apologies for the technical difficulty.
Just really interested in how your experience has been with the Force so far.
Well, do you know what? I've really loved it. It's been a huge, a real challenge for me, I suppose. You know, I was at Leinster for 15 years. I came into the squad there when I was 19 years of age, and things probably got a little bit stale for me. You sort of fall out of love with the game a little bit. You know, it's just natural when you've been in the same environment for so long. So to come over here, to come into a new culture, a new team, you know, meet new teammates, I've loved it. It's been really awesome. I think the fact that Ireland is still in lockdown at the moment, and to come to a COVID-free world with the climate that Western Australia has just been, you know, it's been pretty incredible, to be honest.
Hey, Rob, I mean, I've followed your career, obviously being a lot of times covering it for Sky in Italy and in the Six Nations. Tell me the biggest difference for you between, we're always talking about Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere. What have you noticed as a player?
I think defensively, you know, there's just not the same emphasis put on the structure of defences. I think in the Northern Hemisphere, you might spend, you know, at least 50% of your week practicing defences in terms of your game plan to prepare you for that weekend. You know, the dry ball down here makes an enormous difference. It does allow you to have the ability to showcase your skill set an awful lot more. But I think that the biggest difference for me is probably just the way guys tend to contact. You know, the first preference, find space and get an offload secondary. You know, we're in the Northern Hemisphere, probably drilled from a very young age. The deck, get the ball back, clean ruckers over the ball to try and get speed of ball for the next phase. And I think that's probably, for me, is the biggest difference that I've noticed.
Rob, you've spoken about, you know, you played a few games for Leinster, 219 or so, just a few, but, you know, you've come over here. I mean, are you loving it, enjoying it that much, the silky skills, the sunshine on your back, that you might perhaps give it another year or so?
Oh, Mills, I'm not so sure. To be honest, I change my mind every second day of the week. I wake up some days feeling really good and have a good training session. I think, you know what, maybe I could do this for another year. And then the following day you wake up and you struggle to get up and down the stairs and you're thinking, there's no way I can go through this another year. So I'm still a little bit on the fence at the moment. But, you know, I've had 16 years. I've been so lucky to have achieved some of the things that I have in my career and to play with some of the teams that I've done, that if it is time to hang up the boots this time around, I'll just be really grateful for so many of the great days that rugby has given me.
Rob, what do you think it might take to get more players like yourself who are maybe seeing those last few years of their career to maybe come to the Southern Hemisphere and challenge themselves?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, really. You know, it is very much a lifestyle decision. You know, I suppose personally, in some regards, I was lucky. I have a fiance. She came over here with me, but there was no kids to have to take into the equation. You know, particularly guys towards later on in their career, you know, it was definitely just a lifestyle decision for me. Now, you know, I'll be honest, COVID made it a little bit easier, knowing that, you know, Ireland was going to be in a pretty tricky situation for the last 6 months, and obviously you guys down here have managed it unbelievably well and are living in that COVID-free world. So that's obviously that had something that had a big impact on my decision making.
Obviously, being an outside back, you're a good-looking man, Rob. But as Mills said, you're a bit of a movie star back home. Has it been nice being a little less known on this part of the world, or have you still got a bit of a following?
No, not at all. Listen, I think Mills has probably been a little bit too kind to me there. You know, in so many ways, Ireland is very like New Zealand. You know, it's easy to walk down the street and you're just another person to anyone else, which is something that I think both countries really pride themselves on.
Mate, hey, thanks very much. We've got some technical difficulties early on, but great for you to come with us. Looking forward to you travelling north to Auckland to take on the Blues. JK.
See you Saturday, Rob. We'll see you Saturday, mate.
Can't wait to get you down. Enjoy Nelson while you're there, and, mate, we look forward to seeing you on the weekend.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me on, guys. Cheers.
Thank you. World-class player, absolutely world-class player, fun to watch.
Hope he doesn't play.
What's that? I'm all over him. He is out there and he's giving you everything you can possibly
he's the type of guy that
handle.
can change it.
Everything you can possibly handle. We've got tickets to give away, of course, every Sky Super Rugby Trans-Tasman game. Make sure you email us at thebreakdown.sky.co.nz for you to get in the chance to win. Here's a photo of Carter Sutherland. Here he is. He's down in Dunedin. He's under the roof. He is having a great on time. He didn't need that hat. It's just because it's a supporter's hat. It was a beautiful day down in Dunedin. I hope you enjoyed, Carter. What is the game? Let's have a look at the tipping as it stands for this competition. And yeah, it's got. Yep, Kane Hames is way out in front again. Mills has made a massive move. He got one more point on the weekend.
Hey, what's going on there?
Yeah, what's going on there?
I
tell you what, I must admit, and I got 5 on the weekend. There it is. So look, it's going to come down to the wire. I think Kane, James, and JP and TJ, they're well and truly. And Kirsty will make a late runner from the rugby show. Oh, well, this is us. That's us. We've got plenty to look forward to over the weekend. Will we see any surprises happening? Can Australia get 3? Do we see it anywhere?
I'm just concentrating on the Blues, man. I don't think about it.
You don't think about anybody else? Nothing else? Hannah, you see anything?
The Highlanders, no.
No, not for the Highlanders, not for the Brumbies. I don't. Hopefully not there. Can you see anything?
I think the Highlanders can get up.
You think the Highlanders can get up? Can you think an other Australian team can have a win?
No.
They can't. He can't see it. I wouldn't be surprised. I think they have made some moves in this competition. But it's going to be a great weekend. We will find out who it's going to be, whether or not it's the Crusaders, whether or not it's the Blues, or whether it's the Highlanders. They find a way to get themselves into the final of this competition. We've got one to go. We've previewed it a little bit earlier on, and it's Tom Robinson. He is the captain of the Blues. And in All Access, we get him behind the scenes, spend time with them and see how they spend their lives in and around the game of rugby. Check it out, and we'll see you in 7 days.
Growing up and being a white, lanky ginger kid, I learned pretty fast not to take myself too serious.
Go inside the 4 walls of the Blues Big Red.
Mate, that's not a bit light.
From Monday...
Usually always naked on board too.
...to game day.
I badly want to win a title, a Super Rugby title for this Blues team.
Back in the Garden of Eden, how good. Let's go out there and have some fun, eh?
All Access. Tom Robinson. Premieres Monday. Sky Sport 1.